All right, in July 2025, the federalreserve.gov website put out a report showing consumer credit card debt has risen to an all-time high of over $1.1 trillion, which confirms what we're going to talk about in today's video, how young Americans are going broke faster than ever before. And so the record-breaking truth. Total U.S. credit card debt hit $1.1 trillion in July. Now this is topping what May credit card debt was, and it is now it has exceeded $1.1 trillion. And so this is a record-breaking increase with over $17 billion in consumer credit card debt added since the year to date. So back in April of 2021, since that time, in just over 4.5 years, that's been a $363 billion increase, which is over 30%. So in 4 years, the total national credit card consumer debt has increased by over 30%. A lot of this due to COVID stimulation checks, money printing, and a lot of shuffling of the cards. And so that's essentially $7.3 billion added every single month in consumer credit card debt. Now, the reason for all of this and why this happened was essentially pandemic hit in 2020. The government put out stimmy checks, if you remember that, right? People would save some of that money, but they would largely spend it, and this would increase the total money supply. People would burn out, and inflation started to run rampant. And so with massive inflation, we've seen housing, food, transportation, education, everything go up across the board. And a lot of the times the data you see being put out on these government sites, it's manipulated. It's not accurate. Everything running from unemployment to even this consumer credit card debt is not true, and we'll get into that in a second because they're leaving something out. And so real wages have not kept up with inflation. This has been a trend since the 80s, with inflation supposedly being 2% a year, people wanting their 2% yearly raise, but wages have not kept up with this massive increase in just surviving in the cost of living. Okay, so credit cards were and are supposed to be a temporary band-aid, but they have since become a permanent crutch for a lot of people because they can't make all of these payments, they can't afford even groceries and subscriptions and bills they have. So they basically kick the can down the road a little bit, not realizing that it will come back to haunt them. And so this isn't just bad luck, it's systemic financial erosion. I think since 2020, the statistic is if you earned $100K salary in 2020, you need to now earn $124,000 just to have the relative same purchasing power. So in 5 years, your money has eroded by almost 25%, okay? And in some cases, it's eroded even more. And so what's missing out of this is buy now, pay later. This is essentially a interest-free way to split up payments. Now, I went shopping recently actually for this shirt, and I was at a department store, and the gentleman next to me was trying to use a coupon or get a deal, and the lady checking him out said, hey, we don't offer any discounts, but you can buy now and pay later. And the guy was like, what? So I don't have to pay now? And what he didn't realize is this is marketed as interest-free, but it just leads to impulsive overspending. So when everyone hears the word free, they love it. Everyone loves free. Doesn't matter how rich you are, right? But what you do is you end up spending more, and it reduces that friction because you don't have to pay anything right now. And it is essentially another form of debt. Yes, interest-free, but it's still money that you just spent that you'll have to pay back later. And so spending is projected to total $117 billion in 2025. So with the total credit card debt hitting 1.1 trillion, that's another 10%. It's over 10% on top of that, which is not included in this consumer credit card debt report. Okay. So 18 to 30-year-olds are the most vulnerable for credit card debt, for now buy now, pay later, which is a new thing, because they're typically financially illiterate, undisciplined, and very consumer-driven and dopamine-driven. So these things hit the younger generation harder because they haven't realized the financial hole they're digging themselves in by getting into this. Okay, so on top of all this, flex culture is keeping you poor. So, people think credit cards and buy now, pay later is essentially free money. They can get what they want now and not have to pay it back till later. And men in general are pressured to look successful for women, for social status, for clout, for Instagram, for whatever they're doing, right? And so this is kind of compounded by a lot of factors with influencers, social media, highlight reels, people showing their shopping sprees, their daily rented cars, their trips to Dubai and whatever, and that makes people feel FOMO, right? Fear of missing out, and they want to spend money, put it on their credit card now just so they could have something to flash and flex. Okay, so everything nowadays is also financed, which is a large part of why we've seen $363 billion in additional credit card debt since April of 2021, because everyone finances vacations, cars, rentals, everything. Just put it on the credit card, forget about it, sign a loan, and worry about it later. So people need the latest $1,000 phone, the $800 a month car, the national average of $2,200 a month in rent, right, for an apartment, and they put $0 into savings because YOLO, I want this shit now. Okay, so wage stagnation versus inflation. This is the real killer. Okay, credit card debt could be manageable if your income is increasing, but male wages have stagnated since 1979. Okay, I put out a video on this recently comparing male and female average wages. Since 1979, the female average wage has gone up from roughly 25K to about 51,000 adjusted for inflation, and for males it's actually slightly decreased from 60.5K down to 60K since 1979, adjusted for inflation. So what we're seeing is wage stagnation, massive inflation, massive increase in credit card consumer debt, and that is just digging yourself into a hole that is very tough to get out of. Okay, so in 1985, the average home was also 85K. Back in 2023, which is already about 2 years of old data, it was 416K. So a 5x increase. And if you're a man, your wages have gone down 1%. So do the math on that. Young people cannot afford homes. The average age, I believe, of home buyers is now 56 years old. Okay, that's steadily increased since the 60s, 70s, 80s, where it used to be early 30s. It is now mid-50s just to buy an average home. Okay, necessities also up as well massively since COVID and really since 1980. Okay, so how debt is chaining you down. If you just make the minimum payments, you're essentially signing yourself up for lifelong slavery. When I had a couple of businesses and a property that were giving me a lot of trouble, I had to sell my property at a loss, had to close down one of my businesses, was in a lot of credit card debt, right, just to keep myself my head above water. I was forced to make minimum payments for a little while. Okay, so as you make minimum payments, if your total balance is high enough, your minimum payments will only pay off that tiny portion, and you will be it'll increase your total amount that you owed. So you can make minimum payments forever, and your balance will actually increase because we see roughly 20 to 30% APR in credit card interest rates. So if you owe $10,000 and you make the minimum payment, which is somewhere around 1%, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but you make your minimum payment every month, 1%, right? Your total balance will increase over time. So if you pay 1%, $100 a month on that $10,000 balance, that's only $1,200 a month. But your APR might be 30%. So your balance goes up to $13,000, right? But you only paid $1,200. So your balance went up because, you pay the minimum payment, but it isn't good enough. It's not enough. It's only enough to pay a little bit of the interest, none of the principal, right? None of the actual amount that you own, that you stuck your credit card on. And so you get chained down, okay? So that's brutal compounding, right? So if you do this for years and years and years, let's say 5 years, 30% compounding every year is not just $3,000 on that $10,000 balance. It's multiplied by the new balance. So 30% of $13,000, okay? The next year, 30% of, $16,900. So it compounds at an astronomical rate. And if you don't keep up with this, you start to drown. Okay, so if you have this type of credit card debt, you can't save, you can't invest, you can't take risks, you can't travel, you can't do a lot of things. You might even open up a new credit card to pay off your other credit card and do debt consolidation and all these things just to shuffle numbers around, where at the end of the day, you're still getting fucked up the ass by insane APR credit cards. Okay, so this essentially doesn't allow you to start a business. You can't move cities, right? You can't change jobs. You're basically trapped, because if you have to keep the lights on and you have to pay your minimum payments, otherwise, you default, you run into bankruptcy and all these things, you're too scared to even quit your job because you need that money for the next month. You're living paycheck to paycheck. And this is just a vicious cycle that spins down. So debt is basically the new prison, but the bars are invisible, right? So in the past, we had a different type of slavery where you literally were stuck and you had to do the job, otherwise you would get beaten up, right? But now it's just debt. It's just financial slavery. So we still are required to do all these things, go through the motions of your 9 to 5, maybe open up a side hustle, be Uber Eatsing on the side, something like that, right? But you can't just quit. You can't just stop. You can't just move on to an island and party all day because you don't have the money. So it's all about financial slavery now, okay? So what's the way out? We have record-breaking credit card debt. We have buy now, pay later. We have people spending money to impress people they don't even care about. We have stagnation in wages, not keeping up with inflation at all. So what's the way out? Well, first you have to track every dollar you spend. So back when I had a lot of credit card debt, I could only make minimum payments. I had a failed business. I had a property that I needed to sell at a loss. What I started to do was, first of all, stop spending everything, cut everything that you don't need. And I would open up a Google Sheet or Excel and stick every single one of my expenses in one column, add them up, right, for the month, and then all of my income in another column. So, and at the end of the day, you look at your total income minus your total expenses, and that's what you should have left. So now I'm saving 60% of my net paycheck every single month. I'm in my Google Sheet of all my basically profit and loss statement for a business, right? You have your profit, which is your income, your losses, which is your expenses, which is, rent, food, car bill, phone bill, insurance, coffee. I even factor in roughly $5 a day for that. And I look at what I actually take home every month, and I try and ruthlessly cut everything out. So start with tracking every single dollar you spend. I know for a fact most people have no idea how much they actually spend versus how much they actually take home. It's just kind of like, oh, I don't know, I just stick it on my credit card and stick my head in the sand like an ostrich and hope it all goes away. It's not a good way to live, okay? So once you actually know, you can actually see what you're spending, what you're earning, what you're saving, then you should look to build at least a 3 to 6 month savings. So if your monthly expenses are $2,000, right, you should have roughly $12K in savings, which the majority of Americans do not have, okay? Because people aren't even able to, have the financial discipline to say, no, I'm not going to spend all my fucking money on Grubhub and OnlyFans and all this shit. I'm actually going to save it, okay? So you should have a 6-month savings cushion, so where if you lose your job, if something goes wrong, if you have a massive car repair bill, you're not going to panic and you're not going to blow up, and you don't have to put even more on your credit card, okay? So on top of that, you should try and ruthlessly cut all liabilities and downgrade your lifestyle wherever possible. So cutting liabilities would be sell your car, buy a cheaper one, cut out all these subscriptions for Netflix and HBO and all these other things. Stop eating out all the time. It's very, very expensive now. Chipotle back in 2017 was like $6.80 for a chicken bowl. Now it's $11 plus. Okay? So cut all of your liabilities. From there, once you know how much you spend, know how much you save, cut all of your liabilities, build up this nest egg, what you should do is essentially save your money, invest that money, and let it compound, okay? So all of the excess savings shouldn't just be put in a bank account, because we know financial erosion, right? So our U.S. dollar is being inflated. It's becoming less and less valuable every single year with money printing, with all of these financial assets being inflated. So if you just stick your money, your US dollars in the bank account, you're losing money. You're losing purchasing power. So you should invest in assets such as skills, index funds, crypto, your own business, depending on your risk tolerance, right? So if you have a higher risk tolerance, maybe going after something with a potentially higher return, like crypto, could be good. If you have a lower risk tolerance, just stick it in an ETF, like SPY or something like that, okay? So the answer with all this is essentially delayed gratification, discipline, and that will get you financial freedom over a long enough period of time. So when I was really balling out of control with my business, where I was making tens of thousands of dollars a month, I would spend it like mad. I had no budget. I would take a vacation every month. I bought a Mercedes. I had a nice apartment. I just did whatever, okay? And then when that money started to dry up, I started to panic because, I guess money doesn't grow on trees, and you kind of need a plan. You need to save something, okay? So you can't win this game until you know it's rigged, and it is rigged. If you just spend in this cycle and you get trapped in this credit card debt and be making minimum payments, you're spiraling down, you're trapped in a rigged game, okay? But once you do realize the game is rigged, you can start playing to win, right? You can start doing the opposite. Instead of paying someone else 20, 30% interest on a credit card because you bought stupid shit you don't need, you can instead invest in assets that compound over time. Like crypto, exploding, right? AI, anything in that industry is exploding. Your own business, right? Investing in yourself, that could start compounding and exploding. And over a long enough period of time, you go from net negative, confused in debt, to positive, growing and compounding, and that is a beautiful feeling. Click the video ping on your screen, and I will see you in that next video.